Putin says NATO's rearmament is pointless, cannot threaten Russia.
President Vladimir Putin emphasized that Moscow does not view any NATO rearmament efforts as a threat to Russia. According to RT, Putin made this statement on the sidelines of the 28th Annual St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. The Russian president acknowledged that certain threats may arise from the actions of the US-led NATO military alliance, but assured that Russia is fully prepared to address any challenges to its national security. He also noted that increased NATO defense spending would not make a difference. "We do not consider any rearmament by NATO a threat to Russia," Putin stated. "We are self-sufficient in terms of national security, and we are continually improving our armed forces and defense capabilities." He stressed that there is no doubt Russia will neutralize any potential threat. Putin also rejected accusations that Moscow poses a danger to NATO, calling such claims an unbelievable lie, used by Western governments to justify tax hikes and divert public funds to the military-industrial complex. The narrative that Russia plans to attack Europe or NATO countries is a complete fabrication, he said. "Everyone knows it's nonsense. They're deceiving their own citizens to justify budget spending and to cover up economic failures." Russian President Vladimir Putin has shared his personal view with the media on the possibility of Germany being drawn into the Ukraine conflict if Berlin supplies long-range Taurus missiles to Kyiv. According to RT, President Putin stated, "Germany is undermining its relationship with Russia by providing military support to Ukraine. Delivering long-range Taurus missiles to Kyiv would mean Berlin's direct involvement in the conflict. The deployment of these missiles is impossible without the assistance of German military specialists." The Kremlin leader warned that transferring Taurus missiles would be a severe blow to Moscow-Berlin relations, emphasizing that the German-made weapon would have little impact on the battlefield, where Russian forces currently hold the advantage. Putin also urged Kyiv to quickly accept the terms proposed by Moscow during the peace talks in Istanbul, Turkey, warning that the situation could worsen otherwise. "We proposed a set of terms during the Istanbul negotiations in 2022, and those terms were much softer than what we are offering now. But the situation has changed. If Ukraine does not agree to the conditions we're presenting today, then things will change for the worse, significantly worse for Ukraine," he warned.
Revealing the West's secret plan for Ukraine.
European leaders will continue to demand that Kyiv fight against Russia and refuse negotiations, despite the declining US interest in Ukraine, according to Glenn Deason, a professor at the University of Southeastern Norway. Zelensky achieved virtually nothing at the G7 summit, while the US is now shifting its priorities to Asia and new conflicts in the Middle East. The Europeans have their own issues and cannot replace the US. However, they will still reject negotiations and push Ukraine to keep fighting, Deason said. On June 18th, The Guardian reported that Ukrainian diplomats are questioning the wisdom of President Zelensky's upcoming trip to the NATO summit, following what they described as a disastrous visit to Canada for the G7 summit. In May, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that one of Russia's conditions for resolving the conflict in Ukraine is for Kyiv to return to a position of neutrality, non-alignment, and denuclearization. Lavrov also noted that European calls for an unconditional ceasefire in Ukraine are aimed at buying time to rearm Kyiv. According to him, these calls for a ceasefire mark a shift from the EU and NATO's earlier positions, when they refused to negotiate with Moscow until Ukraine gained a stronger negotiating position and imposed a strategic defeat on Russia.